Okay, viewers, this is one Dr. James VOND speaking, and right now I'm at the regular Pizza Hut eatery on Fairfax Street in Coventry City Centre. And today's date is Tuesday, 17th of March, 2026. And what do I need to say in this video? I've just ordered myself a pizza. I'm waiting for the pizza to arrive, and I thought I'd make this video whilst I'm waiting. It's a very sunny, hot day today, which is not bad actually. Raincoats, trench coats might come off, the overcoats. Anyway, it's a Tuesday in March, and remember that film, Memoirs of the Invisible Man, Magnuscopics? Does that ring a bell? Well, obviously he's rendered invisible, isn't it? On a Tuesday in March when he's attending that lecture on magnetism. Mine was the physics building, obviously, at Warwick University, but he's been lectured about lodestone exhibits magnetism, the phenomenon of magnetism arising from alignment of dipoles, magnetic dipoles. Obviously, he's getting really bored by the lecture. And discovered by Thales, philosopher, the Greek philosopher, centuries before the birth of Christ. And then obviously he says, "Wake me up when they get to the fucking Inquisition." And then he takes a nap, goes to the restroom, and that's where the accident happens. Obviously, coffee is spilled on the keyboard, and that causes a freakish reaction on the building, and it renders it in a state of magnetic flux or invisible, and then he wakes up invisible, obviously. Tuesday in March, anyway, and he meets Alison as well. That's his partner. But other than that film, I need to mention when I was at Vauxhall Bridge, incidentally, I didn't do any graffiti on the Vauxhall Bridge. Whatever they're saying, it was only the Vauxhall Brandish dealers, on Vine Street, back in before around 2000 or something. And I was summoned for courts, magistrates, 5 times for that ridiculous offence. They knocked that Vauxhall Brandish wall down anyway, a decade or so later, and they built student accommodation there, the Cycle Works, and the Vauxhall Brandish dealers actually relocated. But that's not really nowhere near Vauxhall Bridge. It's nothing to do with Vauxhall Bridge. It's Vauxhall Brandish, and it's right at the end of the corner. And there was other graffiti on that wall, incidentally, as well. So it's really, really pathetic, obviously. Obviously, that's down to the surveillance that was taking place around about that time, mass surveillance, was going on. It was linked to those sort of activities. And the graffiti as well probably was linked to that as well. The annoyance, the disturbance. Some people call it the London syndrome, but not quite London syndrome. It's probably the siege in Peru, Lima, the Lima syndrome, the Japanese embassy. The reaction by the kidnappers was furious against that, obviously. Whereas on the other hand, the Stockholm syndrome, that produces apathy and sympathy towards the kidnappers. Like, that's what they are in every day. There's mass surveillance buggers, eavesdropping equipment, electronic means, etc. So it wasn't actually apathy at first. It was annoyance, anger, almost like the Lima syndrome. So that's the sort of reaction that people had, I think. Many people must have been killed, I think, tragically, and when the sound was turned on in the background, ambient noise, whisper mode, call it what you want, or obviously it's going to be whisper mode. I mean, and if you can record that Operation Nifty, it's the reverse of that. Not so loud music, but just whisper mode. Enough to annoy people that they're there, obviously, in the background. So eavesdropping, etc. So that was going on anyway, and I can remember my mum, grandmother, went to Madame Tussauds museum, the wax museum, and that James Bond character at the time, Brosnan, Pierce Brosnan, remember him? Well, he was there in the museum as well, and I think there is some of these grannies. They paid money to this from the group that they were going in the coach to the Madame Tussauds to take a photo with him. That wax museum. So he's a pure letdown, if you ask me. That guy, his his statue, the wax museum statue of him. Obviously, he's wearing a suit and a gun as well, holding a gun or something, and the grannies are just flocking to take pictures with him. It's ridiculous, isn't it? He's a con artist, obviously. He wasn't a protectorate guy anyway, and to prove what happened, 2021, so so these grannies are paying money. I don't know how much it was, maybe up to about £20 or less, just to get a photograph of that wax museum figure of Pierce Brosnan. There are other people there as well, other famous people as well. And he's a con artist. Like I said, he never came up to help. There was a hostile takeover on our house, put it that way. She was removed from the house on the 24th of November 2021 from my own house, the home council house that she owned. Uh, I mean, she would have been the owner of the house if she paid for it, but she had paid over 40 years rent, and she could have bought that house for next to nothing. She would have got the maximum discount in terms of right to buy a council house, and that house was easily worth 100,000 to 200,000 pounds. So she would have got 50% off that if she did buy it, but they removed her from the house. The main tenant took her to hospital and then put her in care homes. That's the NHS officials and social services. They took her out on the 21st of November, on the 24th of November, 2021. I never returned her back. She was put in care homes, and sadly, she died last year at our care homes where she was being held. One of the care homes that was the Harper Fields care home in Balsall Common, Solihull area, and that was on the 4th of January 2025, and she's only 81. So they never sent her back. And she had a fracture there as well on her hip. She had a major surgery there as well. So she was not able to walk after that fracture, that fall that she had there in that care home. So she was literally held captive there and not sent back home. And obviously her house was seized. Ultimately, I was removed as well from that house as well as caretaker, and I tried frantically to put myself down as a successor, being next of kin. They never did that. They never allowed that. So they took the house, they seized it. That's the Coventry County Court on behalf of Citizen Housing Group based in Birmingham. So that's what they did, and there's no James Bond, Pierce Brosnan, lookalike or otherwise, to stop that hostile takeover. It's all fictional bullshit, so don't believe that. Remember that? Is it Tomorrow Never Dies? When he's in the bankers and they're talking about hostile takeovers and things like that. Well, what do? They allowed that to happen. They allowed the hostile takeover to happen. Starting with her seizure, taking her out of the house first of all, and she's paid money to take photographs with a wax museum figure of Pierce Brosnan. So, and some other grannies as well who were attending from a group. I can't remember what group it was. I think they're based at the Harper Fields on Sandy Lane. I think they were. That's the group anyway. Old grannies, and they were in a coach trip. Took photographs with it, and got an image of a photograph of it with Brosnan standing next to them, holding a gun. He probably melted in it. Pathetic, isn't it? Obviously, he was a wax museum figure, isn't it? And it affected me. Obviously, it jeopardised my stay. Ultimately, I was forced to sleep off in a car. That's how bad it was for 13 plus months. So it was a hostile takeover, and obviously the guy was just a wax museum figure. If if he was, obviously an actor, of course. So don't take those, actors literally, obviously. And you shouldn't be paying money to get a photograph next to be seen with one of them anyway. That's even worse. So that rubs it in even worse. So that makes it even more of an insult, isn't it? It's worse than when that Rambo 2 movie when Rambo's actually found one POW, and then Murdoch says, "Abort the mission. Everybody out. Give me the mic. Give me the control frequency." And then clears everyone out when they're really chuffed to bits to hear the news that he's found one of ours. And then Fatman, Richard Crenna says, "For Christ's sake, Murdoch, he's found one of ours." He abandons that mission and leaves them. Remember that scene in Rambo 2? It's like that, let down like that. These are the people you protect your very own ID. And they abandon you, innit? Same with Granny, innit? I mean, she was paying money to get photographed with that guy at the time, the James Bond guy. And I know the Grannies as well. They all went in a group, in a coach to London, innit? At the Madame Tussauds. Paying money, and then that's the guy that people like that don't even fend for them. They were removed from their own house. She was removed from her own council house, 21st of November 2021. And a few years down the line, I was removed as well. So they removed me as well from that same house. That's how ridiculous it was. Ludicrous is the word, obviously. So, where were these guys, who protectorate people like that, They're obviously MI6, they're not MI5. The overseas missions, obviously. MI5 ones are terrible, they're the worst ones. The national security people, they're the ones that let everyone down. They let me down, of course, innit? I had to sleep rough in my car. I mean, the least they could have done is put me in a hotel room. I mean, I was internally an internal refugee, wouldn't you say? If not from outside. And refugees do get the right to be housed by hotels under the Home Office. Obviously, that's if they're from overseas, but not UK-born residents. So they could have maybe been a bit more flexible on their rules. So 13 plus months I slept off in my car, and it wasn't a good experience. It wasn't a camper van or anything like that. No headroom space there. But it was a lot better than imprisonment, I've got to mention that. And I have been in prison as well once. For going back to see my kids. My ex-partner just picked up the phone and dialed 999. So it's not as bad as that. That's the worst ordeal ever, being in prison. So, it was a rough experience, but it wasn't as bad as sleeping in your car. It's nowhere near as bad as being in prison, obviously. So obviously it was quite adventurous as well at times. So I did enjoy going out and about on the continent, especially when I had my car. Obviously, sadly, I don't have my car anymore these days. So that's the sad thing. I can't even go to the continent anymore like I used to. The car was sold for scrap after it failed MOT last May 2025, and I couldn't afford to get the faults fixed. There's a faulty power steering and faulty offside shock absorbers on the offside, and I didn't have the money to do that, to repair it. So not on my minimal income fashion anyway. I'll end this video. So just remember, national security people, they're nowhere near MI6 agents or whatever they call themselves. And I was removed from my house, as well as my mother, who was removed from the house. And then it affected me, obviously, my stay there ultimately, and I wasn't able to become a successor. Don't pay money to get photographs. Any of those figures in Madame Tussauds. It's a con artist up there, that's what I want to say.